Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Recovering Fundamentalist podcast. We're your hosts, Brian and JC. We are without Nathan tonight. Brian, I'm glad it's me. It's never been just me and you. This is a first.
You know, it's never been me and you before. And I hope Nathan listens to this and thinks it's the greatest episode in the history of the Recovering Fundamentalist
You know
podcast.
he will. Everything's the greatest with Nathan. Every cup of coffee is the greatest cup of coffee.
Yes.
Every meal is the best meal he's ever eaten. That's what I love about Nathan. It could be absolutely terrible. He's like, man, that was the greatest thing I've ever experienced.
It takes his positivity to balance me out.
Yeah.
you know, because I leave the restaurant and I'm saying, man, that was barely mediocre at best. And Nathan will say, yeah, the burger was burnt and the bun was stale and had a little mold on it. The cheese was processed, but boy, that lettuce was so crisp and fresh.
Exactly right. I love it. I remember the night, one of the first times we all got together, Nate, we've shared this story on here, was when we went to Big River Grill in Chattanooga. Probably shouldn't have said their name, but shout out. And we went down there to eat. And you had a nice crawly critter on your hamburger. And Nathan,
no, I had a roach.
Okay, you had a roach. But Nathan was trying to be so positive about it. He's like, man, the atmosphere was incredible, guys. I loved being there with y'all. That's what I love about Nathan Cravat. He's just a positive guy. And he texted me a little bit ago. He's been in Chattanooga for his nephew's wedding. And he was walking into Chewy's just a few moments ago when I told him we were sitting down to record. And so Nathan, we miss you, and I hope that we keep this thing on the rails without your positivity and energetic spirit to keep us on the rails, because who knows what Brian and I might say.
Well, at least with me there's one adult, so that's it. At least, you know, makes things hopeful.
Yes, you're right. So that's it. Well, man, we've got a lot coming up here in the life of the RFP that I'm pretty fired up about. We're going to be up in your way November 3rd, 4th, and 5th for the Sake of the Gospel Conference. And I'm super excited about that. We've got some signups that have been happening. Talked to some folks just today. I was in Elam Baptist Church in Gray, Georgia with Adam Bray. And man, he was talking about the conference. And I've been talking to folks all week that are signing up and getting down there. And I can't wait. I know a lot of your church folks are going to be there. A lot of Hope Church are going to be part of it. It's going to be a great weekend, a good conference.
I'm really looking forward to it. And I really hope that people are signing up. I don't know if our audience realizes just how incredible this conference is going to be. I don't know that they understand the fellowship that they're going to experience, which will be the highlight of all of it.
Yeah.
But then, you know, the great preaching and singing and all of that. Man, I'm super excited about it. I know we are as a church community, and I'm just praying that it's going to be an amazing time.
So, I mean, where can you go to a conference for $50 and get Craig Edwards, Mark Milione, Jared Wilson, Hope Music, JJ Weeks Band, Brian Edwards, Nathan Cravat, and me? It's going to be a great, great conference that we want you to sign up for. You can go to recoveringfundamentalist.org. Click on the For the Sake of the Gospel Conference tab and get your tickets today, only $50. And Brian, you know what we only have a few spots left for is our Israel trip coming January 27th through February the 4th. Are you signed up yet, Brian?
I'm signing up this week because I actually talked to the guys in the office, and they're going to help me get signed up and official. And, you know, JC knows this, Nathan knows this. I've traveled all of my life. I've been to places all around the world. I don't love to travel. I love to be at home. But I'm going to sign up for the Israel trip because there's this man that I happen to adore. JC, you might have heard from him at least on occasion. He's got a real raspy voice. Sounds like he's been preaching for years. And he called me up and he said, son, just think about me and you in Israel together over there by the Sea of Galilee and standing by the empty tomb. And he said, the only reason I'd ever want to go to Israel is because I'd get to go with you and we can stay in the same hotel room together. And so I said, man, Daddy, I'm super excited about it. I can't wait to get there.
Right.
So I think everybody ought to sign up for the Israel trip. All the pastors and guys in ministry. It's going to be amazing. And by the way, JC, when we get to the conference, I'm going to have to give you the microphone that I used to record the podcast, because right before we started recording, I broke it. I made a big mistake. I went and got a screwdriver. I had to go online and Google the difference between a flathead and a Phillips head. And I'm just kidding. But I went and got a screwdriver. And now I have managed to break this microphone even worse. What wasn't broken before is now broken.
That's hilarious. Well, that's why we watch YouTube videos and let other people do those things that know how to fix stuff. Hey, sign up and go to Israel with us. We only have a few spots left. recoveringfundamentalist.org. Click on the Israel tab and sign up and go with us. Only $2,800, and we would love for you to go with us. This is a pastor's only trip. It's going to be an absolute incredible time. Craig Edwards is going to be there. Hey, and who knows, with the news this week of all these folks talking about the red heifers that are in Israel, we might actually get to be in Israel when the rapture happens. How cool would that be?
I hope we get there and John Hagee's there. There's a blood moon and the red heifers. That's what I'm hoping happens.
Yes, that's it. Hey, you never know what's going to happen in Israel 2023 with the Recovering Fundamentalist podcast. Man, I'm excited about today's episode. We have two of my friends on today. Nathan, he's not here. He's skipping tonight. He didn't want to be part of this one, but Travis and Eric are with Men of Valor Ministries, and I'm excited for you to get to meet them. These are Recovering Fundamentalists. These guys have been in the IFB. They are RFP fam, and I am fired up for you to hear their stories. I think we should get this show started. What do you think, Brian?
I'm not going to do like Nathan and steal your line. I'm going to say, I think it'd be a great idea, JC.
That's good. Nate, I don't care what you think. Let's go.
The Recovering Fundamentalist podcast begins in 3.
These podcasts, that sounds like a convention of beans or peas to me. Podcast.
Listen, and these recovering fundamentalists, they don't know the Bible either.
What are the fundamentals? Inerrancy, virgin birth of Jesus Christ, substitutionary atonement,
Amen.
bodily resurrection of Christ, and the authenticity of miracles.
2.
I am not a recovering fundamentalist.
They're everywhere. They're all over the internet. They want to be, what do they call it? Recovering from fundamentalism. They're everywhere. And I think to myself, well, you were just stupid to begin with. And if there's such a word, you're stupider now.
We ain't recovering from nothing good, neighbor. We're reviving from the Holy Ghost. Somebody say, man, rock.
Everybody wants to focus on recovering. Oh, you're recovering. Oh, you need help. You need therapy. You're recovering. Let's focus on fundamentalists. We're recovering fundamentalism back from people who have hijacked it. We are biblical. Family, we are the fundamentalists.
Man, that'll make a Baptist want to speak in tongues right there, boys.
1.
I'm going to tell you one thing. We better stay in the old paths. But what are the old paths? I've heard that my whole life, and nobody's ever been able to tell me what the old paths or the old time religion really is, because it's whatever era you overly romanticize in your mind as being when the church was right.
Like it, lump it, pump it, chump it, take it across the street and dump it. We've raised a generation that is ashamed of our forefathers and act like they were somehow done wrong in the way they were brought up, and they were damaged and they were scarred because they were raised in a home that had standards and convictions and kept them on the old time way.
You got their number, boys. Y'all thought you started a podcast. You went and started a movement.
Thanks for joining us for the Recovering Fundamentalist podcast. Make sure to stay tuned at the end of the show to hear more about the RFP sponsors. Now, here's your host for the Recovering Fundamentalist podcast, Nathan Cravat, JC Groves, and Brian Edwards.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to the Recovering Fundamentalist podcast. This is episode 131. Can you believe we have made it 131 episodes, Brian?
You know, for all of those people who predicted our demise after about 3 or 4 episodes, and then all of those people who wanted our demise and
Right.
longed for it. Here we are at 131 episodes. By the way, you do realize when we started this podcast, I had at least 12 more hairs, and you didn't have so much white in your beard. And
True.
I mean, we're actually doing this thing to the point that we're in the aging process. We are hold it. We're in the maturation process.
There it is. There it is. Listen, so I was trying to figure this out before we started. January will be the start of the 4th year that we've been doing this. Is that right?
Wow. Yes.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I don't even know how. It just seems like a few weeks ago that I was sitting down with you guys after recording our first episode, getting ready to eat a roach sandwich. And
and we all got COVID.
Yeah, we were talking about how great this was going to be. And
goodness,
that first night that we were in that studio together, I think all three of us knew, okay, this is bigger than us.
Yeah.
And this is definitely worth investing in. It needs to happen. And I
love
it.
when God puts something together that you can't help but realize, hey, this is God doing this. And when he does that, you run with it. And I believe that Men of Valor is one of those conferences, one of those ministries that God has put together. And watching as an outsider and being a part of the Men of Valor Conference this past August. No, what month was that? Just a month ago. Was it August? Yeah. Man, I don't even know what month it is. My world's been crazy here the last couple of weeks, but getting to be part of the Men of Valor Conference up in Asheville, North Carolina, I got to see the ministry. And after that, the followers on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and the community that is surrounding this conference. It's more than just a couple days. This is an actual community. And we've got two of the leaders of the Men of Valor Ministries on with us tonight. We have Eric Stewart and Travis Watson. Guys, welcome to the Recovering Fundamentalist Podcast.
Hey, thanks for having us. It's a pleasure to be here.
Good to be here. Thank y'all for having us.
That's good. Well, Travis, I don't know you as well as I know Eric. Of course, I did the 6 weeks. What is it called? I totally forgot the name of it now.
SoulCon Challenge.
SoulCon Challenge. That's it. I did the 6-week SoulCon Challenge with Eric. And so we've talked on Marco Polo a lot, but I only got to meet you at the conference. And so we're interested in your story. Kind of share with us who you are, kind of your background, how you met Jesus, got involved with Men of Valor, and what led you to sitting here at Recovering Fundamentalist Podcast?
Sure. Well, as you mentioned, I've got an IFB background as well. But first and foremost, it's just such I meant what I said. It's a pleasure to be here with like-minded men. I've longed for this for the majority of my life. It took me forever to discover it. But I grew up, my dad was a pastor in the IFB movement. Back in the 70s. And long story short, he moved our family up to Alaska in 79 to start his own independent church. And I pretty much grew up in that environment. And a lot of things shaped my life. Obviously, the rigidness and the legalism and all of that of what I knew of faith was a big factor. I also went through significant trauma, sexual abuse, which led to pornography addiction, just a lot of things that really messed me up. I didn't really discover grace actually until years later when I was in college. Didn't even really know the concept. I knew I didn't want to burn, so I prayed a bunch of prayers growing up, but I really didn't discover what it meant to know Jesus until I was in college as a sophomore. And I'll never forget the day he changed my life radically. I still didn't understand it all, but we all know, right? That moment of surrender. And then from there on, I resisted, but I got into ministry. I resisted because I still had my pornography problem I never dealt with, trauma, all kinds of things that I just buried and hoped would go away. And God graciously worked in spite of some of my choices. And I got to wear a lot of different hats over the years. Youth pastor, college pastor, associate pastor. I planted a church up in Williamsburg, Virginia. All that just kind of came crashing to a head when I got caught in an affair. And but man, it was, you never want to commit sin to get to the greatest place in your life, right? But to look back over the last 10, 12 years now and see what God has done, I mean, brothers, I got to tell you, God does the greatest things when he gets a hold of us and can shape us and mold us and take all of that broken garbage, as we know, and use it for his good. And the last 10 years have been the greatest journey of my life, the greatest season of my life. Freedom from my struggles, forgiveness of sin, restoration. My best friend Eric, that's on this podcast with me, God's brought him into my life years ago, and I haven't looked back. And like I said earlier, I had my whole life, I thought there had to be a community where you could be real, where you could be authentic and just talk about struggles and not be judged, but at the same time, be offered hope, be offered direction, be offered the heart of the Father. And I found that along with Eric and many other brothers through SoCon, which then led me into a deep relationship with Eric. As I said, one of my best friends in life. And through that, got involved with Men of Valor. And there's so many precious memories I could tell you about Men of Valor Ministries. One of my favorite ones of all time, and I'll end with this, was the first year I came to the conference. Eric invited me to be a breakout speaker. And I think this was about 2018, if I'm not mistaken, Eric. But about 4 years ago, and it was after the conference. It kind of ended on a Saturday night. We were all sitting in their little fellowship food hall, and there was probably about 20 of us men in there. And Eric grabbed his guitar and just started playing. We all started singing, and we sang about the goodness of God. And I wept. I wept because I felt like I had finally found what I'd been hungry for so many years of my life. And I mean, at that moment, I just knew whatever God does with this ministry, I'm all in. I'm all in. And as you said, JC, in the opening there, that community, that idea of community, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It is phenomenal.
You know, I really appreciate you being open enough to share your journey, even the dark moments. I don't think there's enough of that. I think so often we try to hide, we try to cover up, we try to pretend as if our past doesn't exist. I was talking to someone the other day, and they said, you know, Pastor Brian, you don't understand. I have baggage. And I said, welcome to the human race. That doesn't make you an anomaly. That makes you a human. But I appreciate you being open about that. And I think so often because we attempt to hide our past, then we don't allow God to use and leverage our past for the sake of our future ministry work. And, you know, I was just thinking as you were sharing your story in Psalm 51, we know the darkness and the depth of David's sin. You know, that David had so many opportunities to fulfill the lust of his flesh, and yet his flesh longed for more. You know, David, even walking up on the rooftop was an ancient form of pornography, because people knew the time of day that women would go on the rooftops and bathe, and it was customary that they wouldn't be on the rooftop at that time. And David, from his vantage point, was able to look at what he had no right to look at. And we know that he did that for the sake of fulfilling the craving of his own lust. And then he called Bathsheba to himself. I've heard some pastors try to make Bathsheba out to be somewhat of the villain because she was bathing on her rooftop. I wish they would actually study. But, you know, you didn't say no to the king at that point in time. He had authority. When he demanded your presence, you had no other alternative. And so Bathsheba comes to him. David has his way with her. We know the story. He had her husband Uriah killed with a letter that was sent, place him on the front lines, and Uriah's life taken. So we know the depth and the darkness of David's sin. And once the prophet came to David and said, "You're the man," David just comes out with really a full overview of his sin by using these different words: iniquity, sin, transgression. He said, "It's ever before me." He was really specific. Sins of rebellion, sins of my flesh, sins of desire. He's communicating all of that. Against you and you only have I sinned and done this evil in your sight. God, this was with Bathsheba, against her and against her husband, but ultimately this was against you. And so you would think that would be the end of David. But he starts asking God, will you blot out my transgression? Will you cleanse my iniquity? And then for me, the most beautiful word in the entire psalm is the word then. Wait a minute, you don't get to have a then. Think about everything you've done. You don't get to have a then. But he said, then will I teach transgressors of your ways, and sinners will be converted to repentance. God, if I die, this dies with me. But if you let me live, and so often we want to discard the broken vessels, but we don't even look at the Bible that we've been entrusted with and the amazing Psalms that David wrote after Psalm 51. I didn't mean to go through all that. I didn't try to preach a sermon, but I just want to say I appreciate you for that. Thank you so much for reminding us that Psalm 51 and God's forgiveness and future ministry is a reality.
Thank you for sharing that, Brian. If I could just jump in and echo too, something that has stuck with me as part of my recovery and restoration process. If you go back to the garden, this idea of shame has been embedded in us from the first generation, right? Adam's hiding and God says, where are you? And he is constantly today, I believe, calling men out of the shadows. God knew where he was. It was no secret where Adam was. God knew, but he wanted him to come out of hiding. He wanted him to come into the light. And Satan, I believe that's one of his greatest tools. That's one of the reasons I love Men of Valor. One of his greatest tools is to keep men in shame, keep them hiding. What will people think? Oh, that's taboo. That's disgusting. You're a horrible individual. And I love what you just said. There's always a then. If you have breath in your life, you have a then. And I think I often will say one of the most powerful sermons is simply me too. Me too. So I refuse to live in shame. Sometimes that can come across as cockiness, which I don't intend it to be, or like I'm proud of my sin. But it's like, if you knew who I was and what Jesus did for me, you would be pretty confident about walking in the light as well. And I love that. So thank you for that share. I thought that was beautiful.
I love the freedom that comes when you do find that vulnerability to be just straight up open. The problem is, and I believe a lot, especially in the culture that we come from, you mentioned that stuff, you're done. That's a death sentence. You're written off. There is no hope for a second chance. Thankfully, we serve a God that gives second and third and fourth chances. But I think a lot of times what we tend to do, especially as men, is one, there's a pride issue because we got to look like we've got it all together, and admitting fail or fault, that, man, there's just no getting back up from that. But the thing that I love, especially seeing at Men of Valor Conference, was a group of men that were just open, transparent, vulnerable, saying, hey, I don't have it all together. In fact, here's all of my stuff. But man, you realize that when you become open and vulnerable, that you're not the only person dealing with this stuff. You're not the only one that's walking through that. There is community around us. And that's why community is so important, because we're not doing life alone. We realize that, that's picking ourselves up, dusting it off, and keeping going, and having somebody encouraging us as we are pressing on. Man, I love your story. Excited to have you on the episode today. Eric, share a little bit about who you are and what got you here today.
Hey man, want to say again, just thankful to be here with you guys. But man, born and bred, independent, fundamental, King James Bible only.
Oh yeah,
that's where I come from. Amen. Right. My dad, he actually graduated from Tennessee Temple with a music degree. So he was the choir director from the time I can remember, and love music, and my mom and dad, they truly love the Lord. I've always said, if there's a praying woman, it's my mama, because I've seen what she does behind closed doors is the same thing she sees, same thing you see out in public or at the church. So truly love them, but was raised in that at a young age. Went down to an altar. Once again, heard about hell, just like Travis, didn't want to burn, right? Went down to an altar, and I remember going down, one of the deacons come and prayed over me. I never said a word. I just listened to him pray. We got done. He said, well, do you think you just got saved? And I was like, yeah. So a couple of weeks later, I was baptized, and hey, I thought I had my get out of hell free card.
Insurance.
And, thought I was good. I had my fire insurance. So went on, man, of course, sung in the youth choir, and we traveled around the revivals and sung in the youth choir and done things like that. And even had people during those days, they would constantly tell, hey, one day you're going to be a preacher. And I'm like, man, y'all crazy. And I mean, in that moment, I didn't even have a relationship with Christ. Fast forward, my wife, she was raised in the same, we'll be married next week, praise God, for 23 years. Me and my bride. And me and her met at work, started dating. She was actually a sister church that our church had went many times to sing. Their pastor had come to our church and preached inside that movement. Me and her met, started dating, got married, started going to her church. And then on a Sunday night, just went to church because she wanted me to go to church with her that Sunday night. And man, that night just fell under conviction, under just some preaching. And man, there's a lot of pride I had to swallow because I'd sung specials. I'd stood up there and, helped teach Bible school, done all these things as a young man. And but that night I let go of that pew and went down and surrendered my life to Christ and got up different, seen that true 2 Corinthians 5:17 change that he brought. But then mosey on a little bit down. Mosey, that's a Georgia word for those listening. Mosey on down. Went on a few years, had a couple kids. We got 5 children now, but we had 2 boys at the time. And of course, the independent church we was a part of didn't do children's church, didn't believe in that. The kids need to sit in the sanctuary. And having 2 young boys, we started going to church and we'd leave more stressed out than when we came. And it finally got to the point where me and my wife was like, well, there's no sense in us even coming. We can't get nothing. We can't. So we actually got out of church for a few years with our kids. But man, just like Travis says, man, to see God work through that. So one Sunday we just woke up and me and her was like, we got to get back in church. And we just picked this church. It was just a couple miles down from our house. We didn't know a soul there, and walked into that church and felt so welcome. And got in. The pastor come out. He's one of my best friends this day. He's one that helped me walk me through seeing that God just wasn't inside that little box. And then, man, I seen him walk out that morning. He was young. He's just a couple years older than me. So we was in our late 20s at the time. And the first thing I thought, of course, what was all raised in, I seen that young preacher come out and said, oh, we fixing to get our ears tickled today. But man, he just got up and shared God's word just clearly and truthfully. And then in 2010, man, just got under conviction about my call. And in the back of a homeless shelter, we had our youth group serving. I surrendered my call to the preaching ministry. And if you'd have told me I was still going to pastor a church, I would have laughed at you then. But then in 2015, by the grace of God, I pastored this wonderful church that still been here since 2015 and just following Jesus along the way. But man, just God's mercies, just to watch over those years when we weren't where we needed to be, but he used those where we weren't where we needed to be to get us where we needed to be today. And just, man, it's just a joy. And then of course, got connected, like Travis said, with SoulCon, which is just a wonderful, man, brotherhood of men all around the world. Got connected with that. And then we can jump into how Men of Valor got started. And we started that here at our church. And just, and man, just to see God doing what he's doing is just amazing.
Let's back up. Tell us about SoulCon.
Okay. Well, and Travis can jump in too. So SoulCon, what it is, it's a book written by Cody Bobay. It's actually a 6-week journey. It's a 6-week discipleship journey. In my opinion, all the materials I've come across is the #1 discipleship tool I found for men. If they'll truly plug in and get real and be willing to be vulnerable. I'll never forget the first team call. We have team calls on Zoom once a week during the challenge where we'll have a couple hundred guys get on the call. We'll have a teaching from God's word. And then we'll open up for guys to share and be vulnerable and be real if they want to. And I'll never forget the first call Travis is on. He's like, I get on here. I wanted to know, is this really real? Can I really be real here? And that's when we started to connect and just to see men be vulnerable. Because man, the enemy's really good at what he does, and and bringing condemnation on us, making us think I can't share, because we're really good at what JC said. We've really been good as the church at shooting our own, right? We shoot our wounded. They get down and we take them out instead of helping them get up and helping them recover. But man, it has been for my life, even as a pastor. I was introduced to SoulCon in 2018. And it has showed me, it teaches mental, physical, and spiritual disciplines, and really teaches us how they're all tied together. I know a lot of people don't want to talk about the physical side because it's no fun, right? But we know scripture tells us that no discipline is fun in the moment, but later on, when we see what it does, and that goes spiritually, physically, and mentally. And man, it's been a life changer for me. And Travis can jump in on the SoulCon thing too, but it's just been life changing. I've got brothers all around the world. Actually, just to plug in, this year at Men of Valor Conference, we have men show up in North Carolina from 32 different states that bought plane tickets, that got in vans. We had guys drive from a church all the way in Oklahoma in their church van and drove all the way to North Carolina. And 85%, I would probably say, of those guys are guys that we've connected with and are doing life with digitally inside the Gabor map, which is where we house our Men of Valor community, and also where SoCon community is held as well. But it's just been amazing to see that digital ministry works. And of course, we want that to go back in and fire up the men's ministry in the local church. But man, it's something that works. And if Travis got anything he wants to add about the SoCon, because we've both been a part of it.
I would just throw in real quick. I think one of the fallacies that people buy into, especially men, can be how well can you really get to know another man, especially digitally. That can be awkward and weird sometimes. It really comes down to your hunger and your desire. How desperate are you for godly men to be a part of your life? I am blessed to have a group of 11 other men. Eric is one of those men that I'm connected with digitally online. We get together face to face once a year before our annual Men of Valor Conference. But these other 11 men would literally go to the mat for me, regardless of what the issue was. I could call any of them up tonight. Most of them are West Coast, but I could call them up tonight and say, hey, I need you. And I guarantee you they would move heaven and earth to get on a plane to be here by tomorrow if I needed them.
Wow.
And that's not me just doing fluff. That's a couple of years of investment in these men, of sharing heartache, sharing struggles, almost every other day, I would say, maybe, better than me, but just about every other day, one of us in this group is jumping on saying, hey, I need prayer. Hey, I'm going through something, a struggle. My wife and I aren't clicking, or we've got sickness in the family, or I'm just in a bad headspace, or I'm struggling with temptation. And instantly 11 guys will respond. I'm praying for you. If you need anything, let me know. I'll call you. It's just incredible. So it's worth it. It is absolutely worth it. It'll change your life.
Yeah. I can tell you this, just in the last 8 months, I think, we've been doing I did the Soul Call Challenge with Eric and with Randall Ballou half the time when Randall was doing it. This second shout out in a couple of weeks, Randall there. Randall is part of Men of Valor. Also, we love Randall. He's the fillings manager for this wonderful group here. There it is. And I just gave him that title. He's the fillings manager. That's it, Randall. But one of the things I love, Brian, Brian and Nathan are my guys. Like, I love these two. And just like you talked about, Travis, Brian and Nathan are the two that we can go to. But during this SoulCon challenge, I was trying to figure out what it was, because I knew nothing about Men of Valor. I knew nothing about Gabor map. I knew nothing about what SoulCon was. And I get on there and I get Eric, and he's been telling me a little bit about it. And then he sends me this book and I start reading it. I'm like, this is really incredible. And then to get on every day and to talk to two guys that I really didn't know anything about, but felt like brothers at the end of that 6-week challenge. And to be able to walk through, there was some pretty heavy stuff even during that 6 weeks for all three of us that we were walking through, and to be able to pray with two guys that I didn't know, it brings that brotherhood together. There's commonality there. We're going through some struggles personally, emotionally, spiritually, as we're drudging through physically, because I can tell you, I do one setup a day. I get up in the morning, that's half, and so like trying to do my push-ups and my sit-ups and running a 5K. Like, I did that one time, I actually paid money to do that. I couldn't believe it. I did not come in last. I beat the little kid, just for the record. But, just to have these guys on Marco Polo, and they're like, you can do this. Have you done your sit-ups today? Have you done your push-ups? But then, are you getting into the word? How's your thoughts? That's intentional community that I believe a lot of us are missing out on. And that's one of the things I love the most about it.
Hey, don't you think men have to have that?
Mm-hmm.
I really don't believe it's possible for men to walk in the light alone. Have you ever noticed anytime a guy is drifting towards sin, there's always this progression that takes place. He isolates himself. He clears out any accountability from his life.
Yep.
He starts to live with secrets and walk in the shadows. That's always warning signs that one of our brothers is moving in the wrong direction, coming ever closer to the ledge where he can literally fall off the cliff. And I've always said this, and this is just my way of describing this. True accountability is not a cleanup crew. True accountability is a prevention crew.
Yeah.
And so often we want to make a mess, and then we want to call in the troops to clean up the mess and say, well, I live with accountability. No, if you live with accountability, you have preventative people in your life. You have that guy you can call when you're sitting down at the keyboard and you're tired and your mind's going to dark places and you're getting ready to type in the wrong web address. You've got to have that friend that you call and you say, hey, I need you to talk to me right now, because if I do this, I'm going to feel dirty. I'm going to be more distant from God. This is going to be reckless. You need that guy that you can, when you and your wife are having an argument, that you can walk in the next room and call him. And I need you to call me out on being a godly husband, because right now I'm not being a good example to my family. I'm not loving my wife as Christ loved the church. I think men require that prevention crew. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, you're 100% spot on, man. And that's one of the reasons I love the title Men of Valor. Valor is just another way of saying to have courage in the face of imminent danger, right? To do, like Eric's shirt, men do hard things. That's one of the phrases our team uses a lot, our ministry uses. It is a very difficult thing, very challenging thing. One of the most challenging things you can do as a man, to bare your soul to another man and say, this is me. This is my struggle, my sin, my temptation, my issue. This is me. That takes tremendous courage. The danger we face is nothing like ancient Christianity, right? We know you don't have to look very far in our history to look at what brothers and sisters went through for the Christian faith. The most we go through, let's be honest, especially here in America, ridicule, embarrassment, shame, some of the things we've talked about. But those things have become so weighted, even within I would say not even if, specifically in the Christian community, that the amount of courage it takes for another man to say, hey, this is my struggle. I can't keep my eyes off of the yoga pants at the gym. This is my struggle. I am obsessed by entertainment and I can't get off of Netflix and Hulu and, on and on. This is my struggle. I'm addicted to social media. You go on and on, same-sex attraction, pornography addiction, whatever it might be. It takes tremendous courage. And so I love that you say that, because we're called to that. Christ never sent anybody out on their own and said, hey, go figure it out, go out individually and come back, right? He always sent them in groups of two. You see that throughout Scripture. Paul travels with companions. Companions come to him when he's in jail. Barnabas, Silas, all these guys, Timothy, they're all traveling together. Why? Because that's who we're made to be, to journey together. So spot on. That's a fantastic point. That's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I agree. But the thing about community, when you truly get in community the right way, it works on the back end too. So just like what you're talking about, Brian, when, they go radio silent, you ain't heard from a couple of days, there's a guy that notices. So there's a guy that's hitting him up on the phone, sending him a text saying, hey, man, hadn't heard from you in a couple of days. What's going on? Because it is true. And man, we have seen it so much inside of SoulCon and with our brotherhood that anytime all of a sudden you don't see a guy that we tell our fire team that me and Travis is a part of, hey, if you're going to be silent for a couple of days, you're going away with your family or something like that, we want you to focus on your family. That's your first ministry. But just let us know, hey guys, next 3 days, you're probably not going to hear from me because we're going on vacation and we'll be with my family. So we know that. And we're not thinking, hey, we ain't heard from him in a couple of days. So it goes on both ends. If you truly want accountability, it's there. And the sad part about it, it's hard to find it within the local church, especially as pastors. All of us know that, right? It's hard to find that in the local church. Because, man, some of the things we walk through, because that's what a lot of people forget, that we're just men too. We're just flesh and blood too. I'm just one mistake away from stupid. I'm just one mistake from being where any other man is if I let my guard down, if I don't protect myself. So that's the importance of having that, because, man, that takes some dang discipline for me when I'm in the moment of fixing to do something. For me to text Travis or call Travis and say, man, I'm struggling. That takes true discipline to do that. But also on the back end, we all know this, right? That there's going to be times that I'm not going to pick up that phone, that I'm not going to send that message. And that's why it's important that I have a Travis or a Floyd or a Randall or a Jordan or a Hank in my life that they don't hear from me a couple of days, they're checking on me to saying, hey, hadn't heard from you. And then I have the opportunity, am I going to lie or am I going to tell the truth and own it? And let's move forward through God's grace.
I think a big thing with accountability that is very important is it's not a competition, but we're not trying to be better than the other people just to make sure it looks like we don't have anything going wrong. It's being open and vulnerable and honest. That's the biggest thing. You said that you got to be honest with the people. You know, I've had accountability in life where I've been the accountability for that person, or in my life, even I'm guilty of this, where I have lied. You know, you can fool them, but there's a lot of times where when you have that relationship, you know them, and you can kind of call that out. You see the red flags when they're being in there. And then there's other times where it's just competition. Like, man, I'm doing pretty good today, you know? And so there's nothing really bad in my life, but honesty and vulnerability are very important. That's what I love about SoulCon. Talk to us about Men of Valor Ministries, why you started that. I know we've kind of hit a lot on that, and what the future looks like for Men of Valor Ministries, where you see it going.
Well, man, Men of Valor Ministries, we actually started, we had our first conference in 2017. Me and Jordan Loggins, which goes to church with me here, he's our chairman of deacons. We was coming back from a Johnny Hunt men's conference down in Atlanta. We've been to many of Johnny's conferences over the years, and we was coming back and we said, man, we need something in our area for men, because there's nothing in our area except we have to drive to Atlanta, which is, you know, hour and a half drive to get over to Woodstock. So that next year, we just started planning on having our own little men's conference. And our goal was to get local churches to come together, was to, you know, invite all our local churches in our area to come together. And we all know this, right? Here it comes. Churches like to compete, right? Oh, they're trying to steal our guys if we go to their conference. So this was the sad part for me, was I was inviting the other local pastors to come and speak, because I was trying to show them this ain't about our church. This is, man, we just want to reach men. We want to pour into men's lives. And the pastors would come to preach, but they wouldn't bring their men with them. And so that first year in 2017, I think we had just a little over 20 guys show up that very first year right here at our church. And we had it right here at Liberty. Then the next year grew a little bit, had a few more guys. Then the next year had a few more guys. Then, of course, 2020 hits, right? And here we are. We all know how we went through that. But this is when we seen that God was wanting to do something different with Men of Valor than what we had planned. And don't you love it when God's plan shows up and says, wait a minute, boys, that's not what I was planning on doing with that. Yeah. So here we are. COVID hits. We was having our conference in April. Well, of course, 2020, I mean, COVID's fired up in April. So we say, let's bump our conference back to August, and hopefully we'll see what goes on from there. So we bumped it back to August, and we know 2020, it was still raging, but we was like, hey, we're going to press on. You know, Georgia's restrictions were kind of light, really wasn't, you know, pushing any restrictions that heavy on us. So we said, we're just going to go and see what happens. Well, all of a sudden, we get our guys that's part of our SoulCon community start reaching out to us saying, hey, can we come to that conference? Or is that just for y'all's local guys? And we was like, no, it's for anybody that wants to come. So in the middle of COVID, right in the middle of COVID, August of 2020, we had almost 80 guys show up at our church here in Lula. From, I believe that year, it was from 12 different states in the middle of COVID, flew in, drove in all the way from Nevada, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Texas, come to our little church right here in Lula, Georgia, and had that conference. And it was in that moment that we said, wow, God may could take this and do something way more than what we ever expected. So that's when we started looking at just housing it somewhere else, because we truly wanted to get it out from under our Liberty Church, because we didn't want it to be about Liberty. And that's when we made it its own 501c3 as Men of Valor. And we ended up at Ridgecrest, North Carolina in 2021, up at Ridgecrest Conference Center at Black Mountain, North Carolina. And last year, still again, there was a COVID spike that come in August in 2021. And North Carolina was a little bit more, I mean, there's a little bit more heavy on their restrictions in that moment. But we last year in the middle of COVID, we had almost 150 guys show up last year from, I believe, 30 different states.
Wow.
That were represented, that come in person in the middle of that. And then to God be the glory, we're not out here. I mean, we don't try to get big name speakers. I mean, yeah, we got JC Groves. I mean, that, that's big name as it gets.
Huge,
Yeah,
huge.
I mean, it was
only downhill from there.
It blew the roof off the place. But I mean, we've had people ask when we promote on Facebook, they'd say, well, I don't know none of them speakers. And we was like, well, that's fine, but we don't need a speaker to come and draw because of a name. We want it to go because guys are experiencing Jesus, and they're going home, and their wives are saying, but we had so many testimonies last year and this year where guys going home and they said, my wives are asking us, have you signed up for that conference? Because we see something different in you since you've been home, and their wives are telling them, we want you to go to that. And we give God the glory. So this year,
that's awesome.
Yeah, 2022, we had 250 guys registered, and it was 32 different states represented that showed up in North Carolina. And just, man, to be in that room, JC was there, and just to be in that room with those guys, just unashamedly worshiping Jesus, raising their hands, lifting their voices, and just getting real before God in that moment. And man, we really see that. I mean, kind of our mission statement we've been talking about this week, we've been kind of refocusing stuff. Is, we exist to challenge men to live a life with bold courage as they follow Jesus and make disciples. That's our goal, is to pour into husbands' lives, to pour into daddies' lives. Man, we got something exciting coming next year. We're really focused in on that, 12 to 17-year-old. We're challenging dads to bring your young men to the conference. That's really why we brought Randall on. Man, he's such a passion for students, and we're going to focus in part of our conference for those young men. So we have something. That's one thing I think men's conferences have missed. We really pour into the dads and the men, but we just, don't have nothing specifically for that 12 to 17, those teenagers, when we know, guys, they're experiencing stuff now when they're 8 that we didn't experience till we was almost in our 20s. So it's crazy. So, man, just great things that we can share a couple things, a little bit of things that's coming up. But I'll let Travis speak on it, conference, because I know Travis come in. We brought Travis and Hank. Me and Jordan kind of started this thing. And then as we've seen that growth, we brought Travis and Hank Sharp on our executive team in 2020 and asked him to come be a part of our executive team as we've seen this growth coming. And then this year, just right after the conference, we brought Randall Ballou on our executive team as well. But man, just to really sit back. I mean, when I got up last year, I about lost it. When I got up, it was my turn. I'm honored that they let me get on the stage and bring the message. And I get up there and I see all those men. And I know it started from just 20 guys at a little church in the middle of nowhere. I mean, Travis will tell you, he's been to Liberty. He's preached here before. I mean, you start getting out here, you're like, where in the world are we going? Because we're out in the middle of nowhere, just a little church, that's, and we're just trying to follow Jesus and love people where they're at. And just to see all those men that are willing to get on a plane, willing to leave their families for a weekend, because our conference is a 3-day event that we do. And they come, and I mean, it's just humbling to know that we get to be a little part of what God's wanting to do in those men's lives. And man, we're just trying to follow Jesus every step of the way.
It's good, Eric. Good.
Yeah, that's actually really good. I want to applaud you guys for wading into the fray of men's ministry. Men are incredibly broken, and the absence of men in the church, it's reached epidemic proportions. Now we've got men who are adults, and their wives can't motivate them to even quit playing a video game. We've got men who have never prayed with their family, never prayed with their kids, never even opened the Bible, never enforced responsibilities or discipline in their homes. It's just, I mean, the list grows and grows and grows as you start to talk about all the issues facing men right now, and the fact that we are desperately in need of men. Joshua said, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And there's no record where he voted on that, where he had a family conference. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And I'm sure so many people have brought this out, but I was studying that a few years ago for a sermon. And I happened to notice that before Joshua said anything about his house, he first said, as for me. And I think so often men want to blame their situation and their issues and their sin problems on the family around them, the world around them, all the availability and the access to different things that's around them. But we need men who are going to say, as for me, and you make sure that you're serving the Lord, you're right with God, and then you can address your house and then even beyond the walls of your own house. But I want to ask you guys this. Travis, maybe you can answer this question. So men now live in a culture where it's easier than it's ever been to keep secrets. And one of the things I'm noticing is you can delete your search history, but you can't delete your mental search history. When you lay down, you know exactly who you are, exactly what you've done. And so often it's easy for all of that to scroll through your mind, and it becomes almost a matter of spiritual defeat. So many men are defeated. So, Travis, what do you encounter with men keeping secrets? And how do you talk to a man about his mental scars? Because so many men are mentally scarred.
Yeah, that's such a great question. I think most men today have become numb. They've had that conscience seared so much that they just kind of, it's that checkout mentality. Hence, we try to fill our life with things that make us feel alive again: sports, video games, sexual pursuits, whatever it might be. But there's a cold heart in a lot of men. And I'll get specifically to your question, but I'll set up this way. I mean, valor's not for the faint of heart, right? Jesus said, take up your cross. He didn't say, get ready to have a tough walk ahead of you. The path's going to be hard. He said, take up a cross and follow me, right? Daily take it up. The Old Testament certainly mentioned Joshua. We're told, be strong and courageous, right? Take courage. Why? Because it's hard. And men struggle doing hard things because we've been beat down, we're tired, we're embarrassed, we're shamed, all these things. And that leads to like this numbing effect. And so how do we speak to that? I find most men don't want to do the hard work, and they haven't ever been asked the hard questions. Every time I have a guy that wants to meet with me over coffee to talk about brotherhood, their struggle with pornography, their wife being upset at them because they're not leading marriage, we'll sit down and they'll just start talking. This is my struggle. I'm slipping up with this and I'm struggling with that. And I'll let them go on for, 10, 15 minutes or whatever. And inevitably I'll stop and say, so tell me about you and Jesus now. You've told me about your issue, your problem. Tell me about you and Jesus. And there's nothing there. There's a coldness, there's a deadness, there's an emptiness there. And I said it recently in a teaching, you can't hold hands with the devil and walk in fellowship with God. You can't pursue pornography and entertainment and sports and TV and all the things the world would throw at us to entertain us and still be in an intimate, sweet fellowship with Jesus. It's absolutely impossible. Jesus tells us you can't do it, right? But we strive to do that. And so we'll check off the Sunday box and bury our scars down deep. And so to answer your question, the issue really is to get in and say, okay, what idols have you allowed to take over in the throne of your heart? Eric and I were just talking about this in one of our groups this week, but what idols have you allowed to rule on the throne of your heart that you think bring you life, that you think make life good? It could be, if my wife and I were just getting along great, then man, if that was squared away, I would be the man I need to be. Oh, well, if I was loved, or if I had value or purpose, or if my boss saw something good in me, or if I was just doing something I loved, those are all what we would almost call even good things, right? But a lot of men don't just struggle with those elements. They struggle with, as I said, pornography, a lack of just not feeling good enough, on and on you could go, a lack of just not measuring up financially, not being successful in the workplace, whatever it might be. And until you get into the heart level of things and root out those idols you've allowed to fulfill what God alone can fulfill, you're going to struggle as a man. Anytime you try and find purpose and a reason for life, goodness in life, in anything other than Jesus Christ, it will never satisfy you, and you'll always be empty. So you got to go back and dig those things up. Why do I chase pornography? Well, I want to feel good. I want to feel wanted. I want to feel alive. I want to, right? There are so many things there. And Jesus is saying, I'm the bread of life. I'm the living water. I'm the one that satisfies, me and me alone. And so I think a lot of what we do in Men of Valor is to remind men of who they're made to be. You know, we're made to be kings. We're made to be kings and queens, male and female. We're made to rule with the Father. We're made to have dominion. And we've forgotten that. And we've settled for this cheap service mentality to the world and to the lust of the world and lust of the flesh and the things that temporarily satisfy us. And we've lost sight of the fact that no, we were made to rule in royalty with the King of Kings. That is overwhelming. That is so much more of a higher pursuit than rooting for my favorite football team, right? Or scrolling through endless links that are just algorithmed out the yin yang, I'll say, since I don't know how clean I have to be on the podcast, but right, that are just drilled into us.
You're good.
If I was with Floyd, I'd know what I could say. A good friend of ours, but right, we're just so conditioned, and we lose sight of the fact of, like I said, like what it means to be ruling and reigning with the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. What a high pursuit that is, that he would love me that much, but men are numb to that. So I think a lot of what we do, I know I'm talking a lot, but a lot of what we do is just remind men, like, that's what you're called to be. It's what you're called to do.
That's good.
Let us open the scriptures and talk to you about Jesus a little bit.
I think so many men are trapped and they're looking for an escape instead of looking for freedom. And whom the Son sets free is free indeed. If we can get men to stop looking for an escape and start looking for freedom and realizing that freedom is found in Christ, I just believe that'd be so transformative.
Absolutely. And what's really important too is this touches men of all walks of life.
Yeah.
I could tell you story after story of some of the most prestigious doctors, lawyers, professors, school teachers, you name it, you name the profession, men that are just stuck so much in this complacency and numbness and deadness to life. And it doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what it touches every single man.
That's good stuff. Guys, as we're wrapping up, say there's some folks that are listening tonight, that pastor that's sitting in his study, he's in his car right now, has no accountability in his life. How can he get connected with you guys?
Well, the quickest way he can get connected is to download the free Gibborim app. That's spelled Gibborim. That's actually the Hebrew original language for David's mighty men, the Gibborim. That's where that comes from.
Would you spell that one more time?
Gibborim. Gibborim. You go in your any of your Play stores, it's there, or on your web browser, you can find it, download it, free download, and you can find SoulCon there. We do our SoulCon challenges, and also you go to the affiliated organizations tab, and you'll find Men of Valor. You'll find our community there where you can join our community and be a part of what we're doing there. Also, you can get connected with us at MOV, that's for Men of Valor, movministries.org. And there you can hit that Stay Connected tab, and that's actually got the links to take you to the Gibborim app. Also, it's got links to our Facebook, links to our YouTube channel, or you can send us a message if we can help you in any way. And one thing we do try to do, we'll have one in the morning. We've been doing it since 2020. We try to be more than a once-a-year conference. We're just not one of these once a year. We want to pour into men's life. And one way we do that is through what we call Man Up Monday. We have a call every Monday at 5:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Zoom. And you can find that link on our website. And every week, we just take 30 minutes of intentional time to get in God's word and just to really challenge the men to start their week off right, going after Jesus. Some exciting things coming up. Really quick, JC, if you want me to go ahead and hit it.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, man, we are actually going to be launching Men of Valor podcast in the very, very near future. We don't want to throw a date out, but we will be having that where we really just talk about things like we talked about here today and talk about topics and things and what's a biblical man of valor look like, and just really go in after men's heart with that. Of course, right now, registration is already open for our 2023 Men of Valor Conference. It'll be back up at Ridgecrest Conference Center, August 24th, 25th, 26th. And we're excited about that. We already got over 100 guys already registered already that's planning on coming back and being with us. So, and also I'll give this challenge, and I'll challenge all three of y'all guys to jump on with us. Our next SoCon challenge cycle starts on October the 10th. We'd love for any of you guys out there. And hey, I'll throw this out there because I know you have a lot of guys in our RFP fam that are law enforcement and retired veterans and veterans. We have a lot of those guys that's in our SoCon community. So we'd love for you to come check that out. It's very, kind of fits into those guys that are in those things. And also with SoCon, we just released Randall Blue and Gordon West just wrote SoCon Young Warrior. So that's that target age for 12 to 17-year-olds. There's a book they can buy that gets to go through that 42-day challenge. So dads, you can come, bring your preteen teenager with you, and you can actually walk with them through that discipleship journey as well, starting on October the 10th. And you can find all of that on the Gaborum app. Like I said, you can see the SoCon tab. You can find Men of Valor there. You can look myself, Travis, up when you get there in the community and send us a message. We'd love to connect with you there.
I love it. There's a lot of opportunities to connect with them. And we do have a lot of law enforcement and veterans that are a part of this. And we'd love for you to get connected with them. Nathan and Brian, I think the SoCon Challenge will be awesome for you two to jump on with us. I know I've already been like teasing them last year. I was like, guys, we got to do this. And so I think Nathan and Brian, we need to do the SoCon Challenge together for 6 weeks. Silence. I love it. Nathan's not here, so he's gonna have to do it there. October 10th, buddy. Get ready. It's gonna be good. That's all we got. I love it.
I'll pray about it. Okay.
Yeah, there it is. I can't say enough about the Men of Valor Conference and just getting to experience it and be part of that community for just a short time. Man, it was an incredible event. And I love the community that's happening outside of that. Just, I feel like I'm part of that community, just being there for a little bit. And guys, I would highly encourage you to go to the Gaborum app, go to Men of Valor and find them and get connected. The Men Up Mondays are awesome. Every Monday morning at 5:30. I've been to 3, and that's the 3 that I've spoken at. I can be honest with you here and transparent. I have not woken up any of the other times. That's pretty early for me. But
you need to do the SoCon Challenge again.
You need to. I'll call you at 5:30 a.m. and get your butt out of bed too.
Hey, I'm up, man. I'm up.
Oh, I forgot you're a senior citizen. You're at Hardee's getting that half price.
No, look, once
coffee.
You get used to getting up early, if you don't wake up early, you feel like you miss your whole day.
See, here's the problem, bro. I go to bed when y'all are waking up.
But listen, I go to bed late. I'm texting you late at night. Look, the other morning, morning before last, I woke up at 4:55.
That's when I went to
bed. And then yesterday morning, I woke up at 5:20.
What did I just say about accountability being a competition? Listen at him. Here he is already.
I'm just telling you.
At 5:20.
I didn't say it made me more profitable. I just told you what time I woke up.
No joke. I've gone to bed at 4 a.m. the last 2 nights in a row.
No, JC, that's actually mornings. You've gone to bed at 4 a.m.
What I'm saying,
the last 2 mornings.
Early. I'm more spiritual because I'm already awake. What are we doing? I'm just kidding. Guys, I have absolutely loved having you two on here today. And these guys are actually going to be at the For the Sake of the Gospel Conference in Danville, Virginia. They're going to have a table set up there. And we would love for you to come and meet them. This is a great opportunity to just see what they're all about. Meet Travis, meet Eric. And we'd love for you to get connected with them. Guys, I know that podcast is launching here in a few weeks. We have a network, just saying, just throwing it out there. We'd love to have y'all as part of the RFP network. You can check everything out, Recovering Fundamentalists, by going to recoveringfundamentalist.org. And we will put links to all of the stuff, Men of Valor, Gabora Map, and everything that has to do with them today. This has been a great episode. I've loved the conversation, and it's important, very much needed. And I believe that this is not talked about enough, which is why we are all one decision away from stupid, and too many times we make those stupid decisions. We got to have it. Good men are made nothing without accountability, and great men, good men become great with accountability, is what Moody said, something like that. You know, you can find it on the internet. Everything on the internet is true, said Abraham Lincoln. All right. That's it. I've absolutely loved today. Thanks for being here. And Nathan, I hope you're doing well. Hope you come back sometime, and we'd love to see you. We'll see y'all next week for episode 132. Y'all have a good week.
Be sweet.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Recovering Fundamentalist podcast. Be sure to stop by our social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Give us a follow. Also, go to our website, recoveringfundamentalist.org. That's recoveringfundamentalist.org. There you can find Recovering Fundamentalist swag. You can get your t-shirts and hats. You can join our ex-Fundy community, see where we're going to be having some meetups. It's the recoveringfundamentalist.org. Be sure to join us next time for the Recovering Fundamentalist podcast.